there in the field, and the messenger has taken the message to the house, and they are preparing for the final ceremonies, and he's observing what's happening from up there. And then to see that the family comes to the farming land, and they take the body over to the house, and now they are doing the rituals for the final ceremony of this beloved son. When this happens, everyone seems so calm and quiet. They don't seem to be grieving as they should have usually, that you would expect. No one is shedding a tear. Everyone is calm. Everyone is doing what has to be done. So this Brahma is now a little confused. He really wants to check, are they really grieving or are they not? So the Brahma takes another form as a man, and he comes and approaches the father and asks the father, what has happened here? Are you going to have a final ceremony of any? Is it someone that you don't know? Then the father answers, no, this is my beloved son. And the Brahma asks, so if it's your beloved son, why is that no one is shedding a tear? It doesn't feel like it's a funeral house at all. Everyone seems to be very calm and quiet, composed. Are you sure that it's your beloved son? Are you sure that it's not an enemy of yours? And then the father says, yes, it's my beloved son, but I do not choose to lament or grieve by crying, sobbing, doing all that over the dead body of my son, simply because it's like this is his body, like a snake has shed his skin and left to another skin or another form. This is the skin or the shedded skin of that snake, and this body does not feel anything. So because I know that I'm not lamenting over this, I'm not grieving over this dead body. So the Brahma is not satisfied. He moves on to the mother and asks, isn't this your beloved son? Then the mother says, my son did not come to this world with an invitation, neither he left with permission. So he didn't come with our invitation, neither he left with our permission. So for something like that, why should I grieve? Why should I cry over the dead body of my son? I don't do that. Although he is my beloved son, I do not do that. Then the Brahma approaches the sister who's there. So he asks, why aren't you crying? Isn't he your beloved brother? She says, well, I know that my beloved brother has passed away, but anything I do would not bring him back. Regardless of whether I cry, whether I be so sad about it, nothing will happen except I'll be so slim and I'll be emaciated. I'll be wearied. That's all what would happen. My brother would not come back. So because of that, I do not lament over his dead body. And the Brahma approaches the wife of the departed. She says, well, when we were young, I would have seen that young children, they would show you the moon and tell mother, father, I want this moon. But we know it's not possible. So even if I look at my beloved husband's dead body, and if I request from anyone that please bring him back, it's not going to happen. So I'm moving on. I'm not going to lament over his dead body. Then Brahma also approaches the servant who has been raising the son, the prince, the servant who has been raising him. So she gives an even wonderful answer. Aren't you sad that it's your master who's dead, who you have been taking care of since his childhood, since his infancy? Well, I'm not going to do that because when I'm working at my station in the kitchen, what if by mistake I drop a clay pot? and if it's shattered into pieces, uh, even if I cry, even if I lament, it's not going to go back to its original form and be the original clay pot, because once shattered, it's shattered. So no matter how much I cry, it's not going to bring my master back. So because of that reason, I do not want to lament over the dead body of my son. So goes the Uraga Jatakaya. In fact, Uraga Jatakaya is the last of this Uraga Vagdaya, which comprises of many such stories. About 7 of them, if I'm not mistaken, where people come across situations where they had to grieve, and also there have been people who have taken it in a different nature. They have taken it in a different manner. And so once this Dharmapala Jataka or Dharmapala context was said to the father who was lamenting over the death of the son, he understands the reality of the nature. And then they say that he became enlightened, he became a Sowan person. So this is a story. But I know that when we are faced with practical issues, traumas, where you have to be upset about it. Now it could be something from breaking a glass, breaking your vase, to having someone departed who's the most beloved of yours. Let me draw your mind to something. When something like that happens, we also face certain stages of reacting to that incident or that occurrence. So this is even sometimes commonly discussed in modern psychology as stages of grieving. And there's a lot of argument about why it is good and why it is not. But what's important is the observation that we can learn from this particular thing. And what happens is when something adverse happens, right? Say a death of someone that was beloved. I was watching TV recently, not recently, sometime back. Then I happened to see during the bomb threat Sri Lanka had, there was this father who was going to school with his son or daughter, and then there has been a policeman who was guarding the gate. Apparently there has been some mix-up, and the father was killed. Father was shot accidentally. And then the TV channels, they are not quite ethical in doing certain things, but they have been showing the house of the departed, how the wife and the mother are grieving over the death. And the first reaction they would have is that I do not believe that my husband departed. I simply cannot believe that. He was just here this morning. He had breakfast with me. I do not believe that this happened. For most of us, the natural reaction for a very adverse occurring or an incident is that we do not want to believe that. We deny that. We are in denial. We do not want to accept that this happened. So the first reaction is, no, it's impossible. This could not have happened. It is not possible. But then I saw the incident further on. Then you would see that the body of that deceased husband was taken to the house, and now the wife and the mother, they see the body. They have to sort of accept that the person is dead. And when that happens, they get really upset about it. They get angry about it. They want to find justice to what happened. So then I'm just taking this example, but this could have been the example for many of us. Then we try to blame it on someone and find justice with that. So our denial sort of transforms to an anger, to an agitation, and we are angry, and we want to find, we want to do justice to the one who's deceased. Even if something like this happens, say one of your beloved person is deceased, departed from you, The first reaction would be that I do not believe this happened. He was just here with me yesterday, day before, 2 hours ago, and I do not want to believe that. And if somehow you have to believe that that person is gone, then your natural reaction would be, has the doctors done something wrong? Has the police done something wrong? Is it the government? Is it someone? Is there someone to be blamed for this? Has justice not been served for this person? Has the doctors not have done enough? Um, is it the God? Is it the God who made this very unlikable event happen? Is he the one who's to be blamed? Is it the karma? What is to be blamed? And if it is someone that can I fight him? Can I use all my power, and then can I make justice, do justice for the person who's departed? Can I do that? That would be a secondary reaction. And further on you go, you would find that no matter you try to do right by the person who's dead, you still can't make that person wake up. Once he's gone, like that clay pot, once shattered, is departed, or she's departed. When this happens, we try to bargain, or we try to sort of channel the blame towards us. Could I have done a little more? Could I have done a little more to keep this person alive? Is it my fault? Had I done this would not be happening. So we try to sort of bargaining over what happened, and we see if there's anything else that we could have done. Still, it doesn't work because the person who's dead, departed, has departed. Then we sort of get into a depressive state of mind where we can't eat, we can't sleep, like that person that Buddha was talking about the teaching about the Dharmapala Sutra. We can't focus on anything. We lose track of our daily routine. We can't attend to our job. We can't even sleep properly. Everywhere we see, whenever we see something which reminds of our departed person, we get into this depressive mood. So this mood could go on, and eventually, few years later, 1 year, 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years later, eventually you would move on. You will reintegrate back to the previous life, and then you will start moving on. Now, what I want to show is that these stages could occur, but not necessarily one after the other. Also, it doesn't have to be a set. It doesn't have to be a set period where one is stuck at a particular stage. For example, if you watch news again, you will see that there are rallies done by parents who bring boards to the Lipton Circle and say, "My son is missing. He has been missing for the last 20 years. I still believe that he's there. Please bring him back." Some people do not want to believe that, even accept that he's departed or she's departed. I still believe that he's somewhere. He's somewhere. Please bring my son back to me. And you could even see that some people want to take revenge of the one who's deceased and do right by him. In fact, there's this famous prisoner in Sri Lanka. I can't recall his name, but he has this very famous tattoo. He has this thing called Itumateji thing. If you look into his story, his account of his life, he has been trying to avenge his sister who was killed in a very unjustful manner. He has been trying to avenge his sister for a quite long time, almost his entire adult lifehood, getting into the prison, breaking from the prison, and then trying to go after one after the other. And he was avenging that death for the entire lifetime, entire adulthood, since 20 years until I think 50, 60 years, he has been trying to take revenge on that sister's killers. Some people go into depression and they do not want to wake up for quite a long time, for 10 years. few years. They would even go to extremes. For some people, they move on in these stages quite fast. It could be 2 years, it could be 1 year, but most likely, bulk of the people, 95% of the people, 99% of the people, you will see that they move on. How do we know that we have moved on? That we sort of get used to the new reality, that we need to accept that this person is no more with us. Uh, this person is gone, and we need to really accept that we can't do anything about this. But having said that, we need to accept what has happened, and move on, which is not an easy task. And there are a few things that we can look at what happens when we are trying to sort of accept this new reality. Often what would happen is that we come up with our own coping mechanism. And the coping mechanism is our natural reaction for us to not be upset. In fact, I can't remember who said this, but someone has said that the very cave that we are afraid to enter is the one you are looking for, like nirvana, like enlightenment. That's the one thing that you love most, but it's the one thing that you are most afraid of at the same time. I'll tell you why. When these things are happening, when we are in initial shock, when we are in denial, when we are in frustration, when we are in bargaining, when we are in depression, and then we move on, what really changes is only our mind. What has happened hasn't really changed. And that's what this Dharmapala Brahmana says. It's like a shattered clay pot. It has happened, and there's no coming back. My brother has left the world. No matter how much I cry, it's not going to come back. But the thing is that it looks quite rational, it looks logical, but when it happens, I can't accept that, which is perfect. And even in my life, I have come across adverse situations. Well, not death, but certain adverse situations. I'm sure that every one of you has gone through some adverse situation. That when that happens, we can't really rationalize it. We can't think like Dharmapala Brahmana. We tend to grieve, we lament over that. And at the same time, now having said the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra also, let me tell you something about our mind. Our mind is very simple. It has a positive side and a negative side. A positive side of what we love, and a negative side of what we reject or repulse. So we reject certain things and we accept certain things. When the things that we accept are near us, around us, now I'm not only talking about physical things, but it could be even a thought. When something that we like is around us, we feel happy. When something comes around us which we do not like, which we have rejected, then we feel sad. Pihi vipayogo dukkho, apihi sampayogo dukkho. When a loved form is around you, it doesn't have to be a person. It can be a hobby. It can be an artifact. It can be an animated thing. It can be even thought, a mere thought. Even a mere thought is enough. If it's around you, you are feeling happy. When it's taken away from you, when it's diminishing, when it's going away, you feel sad. Or if something is coming into interaction with you, which is not something that you like, something that you don't like, then you feel a great rejection, a repulsion. Often, we can categorize these feelings as anger, frustration, dislike, etc., etc. And on the positive side, the happiness, joyfulness, acceptance, all that side. If you take an year, if you take 2019, for example, because 2020 you can't take it as a year, because that year has been a quite different year compared to all the other years that you have spent. So if you take 2019, January, February, March, April, so on, you would see that certain months have been positive. Certain other months have been negative. What I'm saying is that certain months you felt nice about your existence. That month was good, but certain months were quite depressive. They even say, especially that you are living in a country where the seasonality is there. Uh, Researchers say that when the summer approaches, people are quite happy, they're joyful, but when the winter approaches, people get a little moody, depressive. Uh, so that's the year. If you take a month, you know that around the time the salary is in your bank account, or around the week that your salary comes to your bank account, you are happy. And towards the last bit, you find it quite depressing. If you take a week, uh, weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is beautiful. We love it. But towards Monday, Tuesday, it's hard. We hate it. And if you take even today, I think it's late evening in your country. From the morning to evening, certain hours has been very nice. We liked it, and certain hours has been not so nice. Even could be a little depressive. And such is our mind. Such is our conscious experience. Now, why do I say the conscious experience? Our life, if you really think about it, is really about the time that we spend or the experience that we have while we are awake. I'll reiterate that. Even the sleep you have is not part of your experience. Now, I slept a while ago for 2 hours today, but the sleeping is not an experience for me. The experience is a moment before I fall asleep and right when I wake up. That's my conscious experience. If you have gone through anesthesia, you would anesthetic. So if you have been unconscious, you would know that unconsciousness is not an experience. It's an extrapolation or something that you think based on your conscious experience. So your conscious experience or your experience when you are awake is that you find certain good parts, positive parts, nice parts, and then you find these negative parts, or you find neutral parts. If it's not any of these, you're either sleeping or you're unconscious. That's your experience, and your entire life has revolved around this experience. The experience that you have when you are awake, and within this experience, you have sensory experience, visual experience, audio experiences, experiences in thinking, and that's our experience. And within this experience, again, there's a positive side and a negative side. So what often happens is that, what I wanted to say earlier is that if you take an year, if you take a month, a day, even an hour, even from start to end of this sermon, you would find that our mind sometimes stay on the positive side, sometimes goes to the negative side. And our mind is in a continuous fluctuation, like a sine curve, where it goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down. If you don't know what a sine curve is, it's like the waves of the ocean. Goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down, right? And the good thing about it is that what goes up has to go down. What goes down has to go up. So one after the other, it's up and a down, up and a down. It would never be up or never be down. It would be definitely up if it's down, down if it's up. And that's the simple truth of a conscious experience. That's the reality or the observation that we can make about our experience of life. Improportionate and very, very unproportionately responds toward what's happening around him, and he would react much further than and then you would say that this person is mad, right? The same thing could happen on the downward side. For the slightest thing, this person gets really depressed, even to a point where he or she questions about the existence, right? So when it goes to that rock bottom, they say this person is depressed, chronically depressed, bipolar, whatever the psychologists say. We know this behavior. Even if we are not clinically diagnosed as maniacs or depressed people, that we know this has occurred definitely in our lifetime. Probably yesterday, probably a month ago, probably a year ago, this has happened. And so again, how we would define clinically insane people is that when they go above and beyond a certain limit. But if you see that most of us, we are somewhat crazy. In other words, sabbe pruthajjana unmattaka. We are sort of crazy. And there's a nice phrase in Sinhala. I hope that everyone understands Sinhala. A person who's crazy, or the saying is that Isso kalabalunata doctor kalabala. The crazy person gets agitated, but the doctors doesn't get agitated. And why is that? The crazy person doesn't understand the nature of the mind. The doctor, on the other hand, he knows. He does not get panicked. He's calm, composed. He knows what has to be done. Suppose that there's an injury where there's a fracture, a compound fracture, where your bone is sticking out of your leg or arm or whatever the limb. Usually, the usual reaction, whether you feel pain or not, you get agitated, you get so traumatized. That's your natural reaction. But an orthopedic surgeon, I'm sure that some of you are probably doctors, they do not get panicked. They know what has to be done. They know that you have to treat this. You need to do certain things, A, B, C, D things, in order to do the corrective action. So they do not panic. And why is that they do not panic? Because they understand the nature of these things. They have learned extensively in the medical school. They have had a lot of experience, clinical experience, so they know how to handle this. So they do not panic. And simply because we do not know the nature of our mind, we panic. And a person who understands all corners of our mind, in other words, our existence, do not panic. He does not panic for the good. He does not get agitated for the bad. Whatever which comes his way, he or she is not agitated, does not get shocked. And let me tell you another example. Suppose that you have to go to sleep today, and tomorrow when you wake up in a totally unfamiliar setting. You know, you wake up in a mansion which you have not seen before, or a totally unfamiliar setup. Your natural reaction would be to get a little panicked, right? But it happened to be, it's your cozy bedroom that you know inside out. You would not panic. You would find comforting. You would find comfort. Whereas on the other occasion, you would find panicking. Same thing happens to us when we are faced with an emotion, with an atrocity, an adverse effect. We wake up in a place we have not seen before, where we are not very familiar. And like I said, the very cave that we are afraid to enter is the one we are really looking for, and that's in our mind. We do not know the size and we do not know the length and breadth of our mind. So we get afraid, we get scared, and we have a panic reaction, not a composed reaction like the doctor who knows inside out of the fractured bone. We have a panic reaction to the new setting that we see, simply because we do not understand the nature of our mind. Simple as it may sound, it's not simple. And why it's not simple is because it's so simple. Now it might come as a oxymoron, you know. It's so simple, and because of its simplicity, we cannot see this. We cannot see past this. And when our mind is in shock, what really causes that shock? Is it the incident which happened, or is that it's our natural reaction to it, right? Or is it that we are waking up inside our mind to a total unfamiliar setting or an unfamiliar surrounding? Having said that, again, um, our mind, another nature of our mind is that it's very habitual. It's our entire existence is actually a habit. I'm sure that had it been not a Zoom discussion, if you are really in the Wellington Meditation Center, you would be seated in front of me, and then you would be seated in a particular way, right? You'd be wearing white clothing, most likely, and you'd be even having your hands together like this, um, and you'd be even nodding your head in a certain way. If you really look at why we do that, it's actually a habit. That's the habit that we have been trained. And I'm sure that you meet a lot of foreign people over there. They would not have the same reaction as you would have if they come to a temple, right? So if you look at that way, our entire existence is a response to an action which is very habitual, right? Um, Take, for example, what you do right after when you wake up. For most of the people, it would be taking the phone, checking the messages that you have received, checking social media, what are the notifications, and then doing ABCD things. Or it could be waking up in the morning, doing a yoga stretch, and then getting on. What if your parent or your child comes and screams at you early in the morning? Your natural reaction would be to get mad. Very few people have the natural reaction to smile when someone says something bad to your face, right? So if you really look at it, it's the way we have sort of opted to behave to a certain incident. It's a reaction. And same goes with a funeral event. Now I know, like most of the time, when we used to be in the university, Waterloo University with Ananda Thero, we would go on numerous trips for funerals of our batchmates. And we know that when we get off from the university property, during the bus ride, we hire a bus, the entire batch is in that bus. We would do all sorts of things, drinking, singing, all sorts of things. We are very happy. And when we reach Madhara, where the funeral is, all of a sudden, everyone gets into this mood. They do not even make a joke, serious faces, long faces. And that's how we react. And that's our habit to be in a funeral house. Recently, I saw in social media that there's this group where they do a coffin dance. They do a dance when they are carrying the dead body. And I have seen in some African country, their ritual is to throw a big party to the dead person. Because what they believe is that this person has left this world in order to go to a better world. So assume that, most of you are Sri Lankans, I mean, first generation Canadian citizens probably. When you left to Canada, I'm sure that most of your relatives threw you a party. Our beloved person is going to this beautiful country, what you call a first world country. So let us throw a party. So they were happy about it. But when it comes to death, we don't do that. We are not showing our response in that way, but our natural response is to cry, right? And if you again look at why we do that, if you look at inside your mind, you would find that it's just mostly a habit for most of us, not for the directly affected people, but for most of us. I'll tell you why. couple of days ago, about a week ago, a couple came to see me. They were having a sort of a family issue, and I asked where the family issue has stemmed. It has started from the phobia this lady has of cockroaches. Now she's not afraid of snakes. She's not afraid of more scary creatures, but she's afraid of cockroaches. And then while I was talking to her, she was revealing what's inside her mind, and then she was telling to me that I wasn't really afraid of cockroaches throughout my entire life. In fact, when I was a child, it wasn't the case, but I remember one incident. I remember this very traumatic incident. We had a servant, and she was super afraid of these cockroaches. So she would run away when she sees a cockroach, and my sister would follow. So I would be scared of them. Right. So by default, I before I became a monk, I had a son. He was not afraid of cockroaches or caterpillars or whatever. In fact, if you look at small children, they would just grab the insect and even try to put that insect in mouth. That's their natural habit. That's their natural response. But when we see our audience or our surrounding, our parents, our caretakers are reacting to that in a different emotions, we try to mirror that emotion. And people say, the behavioral psychologists even say that it's a coping mechanism. That's how we learn, because that's how we move forward. That's how we learn and move forward in life. That's a mechanism of learning. So we sort of reflect, or we mirror the emotions of the people that we see in front of us when we are quite young, right? And based on these emotions of other people, we develop this habit of responding to activities or incidents when we are faced with that incident. So again, if we look at the stages of our grieving, the initial shock and not want to believe that it happened, the initial anger, initial depression, and then finally moving on. These could be habits, these could be habitual. But again, let me tell again and again, although we look at these things when we have moved on, these do not apply when we are in the situation. For example, if we are on a stream and if we are struggling to reach one of the banks, we can't really enjoy the way the river is flowing, or we can't see the beauty of the river, because we are struggling in the stream, we are struggling in these emotions. But if you somehow reach one of the banks and then you look at the river, the same river, you will see how beautiful it's flowing. The flowers, the blue water, it looks so beautiful. But when we are in the stream trying to reach a bank, it's not possible. So one needs to understand that if you are struggling in this stream of emotions, first you need to reach a bank. And in order to reach a bank, one can do many things, starting from talking, right? So again, it's sort of a coping mechanism that whenever we want to heal ourselves, there's many ways that we employ to do that. And also there are many behaviors that we can see when something like this happens. And if you look at Tripitaka, if you look at Uddaka Nikaya and Uttara Nikaya, you find all these stories about how people have responded to different incidents. For example, one lady loses her entire family and she's acting as if she's really insane, right? And one merchant has lost his son. He's lamenting, grieving, like there's no future for him, right? So all these reactions to adversities which are happening, we can see through these stories. We can see this when we turn on the television, when we turn on the news. We see this in our day-to-day life. We see it happening to our relatives, to ourselves. But most of the time, we do not see it happening to ourselves. We see it happening to other people. So again, let me take a few examples of what a person would do when certain things happen. Suppose that you are faced with a very traumatizing event. Someone could behave in a different manner. Someone could behave in a few ways. If you are facing with a angry situation, if you are mad at someone, else, but you know that you can't be really doing anything about it, you can project that same anger to someone else. Even if you are mad at yourself, have I not been doing enough to prevent this incident or the adversity occurring? I could project the same anger towards someone else. Classic case happens when I have seen that. I have seen this when I was about to get married. Just the day before, my mother was furious. She was really mad at my brother, my father, and to see that she really misses me, she has missed me, but she cannot directly focus it to me or the future daughter-in-law, which is politically very incorrect. So she focuses on someone else that she could project. And as relatives, as people who are around a person who's grieving, we need to understand that sometimes this could happen. A traumatizing event, a person where he or she is upset about himself, about not having done anything enough for the person who has departed or for that particular traumatizing event, he or she could channel his anger, frustration on someone totally unrelated. It could be even the milkman who comes and say good morning. It can be a totally unrelated person. And naturally, if you get blamed for something you do not deserve, our natural reaction is to retaliate. But as people who are more compassionate, we need to understand when someone does that, maybe that person has a deeper emotional agitation, and that is the emotional agitation venting out, and we need to be compassionate about it. We need to be careful about handling that person. We need to be we need to really try to understand that person from the shoes that he or she is in. So that's something which could happen. Also, there could be things like we are trying to self-convince through a rationale. For example, it's the nature that everything goes into its original form. If you are made out of earth and sand and water, it's a natural way that it's going away. So we can have some rationalization. Often you see that a lot of people use religion for this rationalization to move on, right? It's the karma, it's the wish of the god, it's the way it has happened. So we use this rationalization to move on from that traumatic incident. And well, there's a good side to it, there's a bad side to it. Sometimes this can be an over intellectualization. You could go overboard with it. In fact, I have seen that many people who approach me at the temple, they say, Swamin Mahansa, we are interested in learning Buddhism. We are interested in learning Paticca we are interested in learning this Bodhipakshika Dharma from you. But if you really see that that person is not really looking for that, that person is approaching us to find solace to an unsettling emotion that person has. And that is what Dharma, that is what Buddha's teaching is exactly for, to find solace, to find this supreme bliss inside your mind. And having said that, again, you could see that having a solace and having a permanent solution are entirely two different things. But in order for us to go for a permanent solution, we need to have a solace. So it's very important that we make use of our beliefs, our religion, our friends, our other things. Like for example, doing an exercise or going out on a trip, or even something like looking at a soap. Like I see that there's a lot of dramas in Sri Lanka. I'm sure some of you are watching these dramas, like the mega dramas. When you look at their problems, for a moment you forget your problem, right? And you sort of think, well, this person is so naive, this person is so stupid. Those are the actors I'm talking about in the soap drama. You think about them, and for that moment you find relief in your own problem. Go for it, which is a very good thing, because doing that you find great relief, at least momentarily. right? So I don't know what is the best answer for you, but you can try out all these things. You can try yoga, you can try meditation, you can try taking a picnic, you can try in New Zealand. There's this thing hugging a tree. I'm sure it's in Canada also. Go hug a tree, go pet animals, go to a petting zoo, talk to your friends, play a sport, get your mind off what's bothering you. Find solace in that. You will find solace in that, but the next time it happens, again, it will be affecting you, and the same thing would happen. So that's why we need to sort of go for a more long-lasting liberation of our mind patterns. But first, things has to be done first. Suppose that you have a headache, a great headache. You can take Panadol, right? A paracetamol. It doesn't work. So then you take Disprin. It still doesn't work. Then you go for ibuprofen. It works, right? So you try what's working for you. Take ibuprofen. But what's really giving you the headache is not the headache. It's just a symptom. You have a tumor. You need to treat the tumor, right? Same thing applies to our lamenting. It's very important that we find solace first, but finding solace is not the end of the story, because the next time it occurs, the same, you would be going through the same cycle again. And why I'm saying that is that I mentioned that our life is ups and downs, right? If you pass a certain threshold, you're called clinically insane. But every one of us are insane in one way or the other. If your life doesn't go way up or way down, if the curve is somewhat flattened, one could even say that we have reached emotional stability, that we are more emotionally intelligent. In fact, you see that there's different indications where Westerners measure people. One is IQ, intelligent quotient. The other is emotional quotient or emotional intelligence. And I have seen that the latest sort of corporate related indicator that's the adversity quotient, AQ, right? And it's fantastic to see that adversity quotient is really about how you react to adversities. Dukkha Sapa, Yasa Ayasa, Ninda Prashansa. How do you react to the Atalo Daham? How do you react to these adversities? That's the adversity quotient. And coming back to our cycle again, ups and downs, in order to really understand our mind, you need to sort of flatten the curve, like we are trying to do with Corona. You need to find somewhat of a stability in order to really try to understand. Same example, if you are in a stream of emotions, while you're struggling in the stream of emotions, you really can't enjoy or really can't try to understand the make of the river. You need to be more settled. But on the other hand, if you're on a tire tube or an inflatable object that you can just lean on, you can try to understand the river better, right? Because you're not struggling with the emotions, you're not carried away by the emotions, you're just observing emotions. So that's a better footing to sort of understand our mind, understand our existence. So when this happens, we go on highs, we go on lows. But if we use this some coping mechanism in order to flatten our curve, it could be anything. And I have seen most of the time, over the last month, a few people approached me saying that they want to commit suicide, right? And when they did that, we have this thing where we chant Pirit every day from 6:30 to 7:30 or 7:15 for 45 minutes. We do that. And I found that the most effective thing a person could do is really chant Pirit. Come under the bo tree, come to the temple, come to this very relaxing environment, and station yourself there, talk to a monk, and then even just look at the bo tree, look at the statue, look at Buddha, chant one of these Pirit, and then that really calms your mind down so much, right? So I've seen a person who comes saying, I want to kill myself today, and after 45 minutes of chanting, he's perfectly calm, right? So I don't know what calms you, but make sense of, I'm sure that you already know what could have calmed you. So make use of this and find your solace, but also know that it's only temporary calmness. The moment the next adversity, the adverse effect hits you, atrocity hits you, you're going to get agitated again. Knowing that, still try to find your solace by doing something which should help you. So, supporting or support from people who are around you is one of the key things in trying to find solace in this grieving process. So it could be even a group of people, or it could be your relatives. In fact, Sri Lankan culture, I should say, is quite beautiful in this manner. When someone is dead, you know, if there's a funeral house, there's this thing that you don't leave the funeral house unattended, or you don't close the doors for the next 7 days, right? There could be many reasons why they don't do it. But I see that one of the things is that more than for the dead, it's a great help for the living. It's a great way that they could look at the corpse. They could really try to come back to the reality that this person has left us, and also have this fantastic support group, very closely knit relatives, friends who comes and try to solace ourselves, and we share our grief. We share our memories, and through that we find solace, right? And even humor, I have seen in many funeral houses, the most affected person sometimes cracks a joke, and the next time he or she burst in tears, feel bad about cracking a joke. But doing all that helps you move on, right? Some of the bad things that you could do is actually the opposite of this, trying to escape from this. In fact, most of the people that who have approached me, who have troubled minds, I have seen that there are people who do not have close friends. They do not have friends where they open themselves up, right? Buddha knew all areas of the mind. He even imposed this as a ritual for the monks, as Vinaya Karma, as Pohoya Karma. Tomorrow we'll be doing the Pohoya Karma, and one of the key things is that you share what you have done, what you have thought with your colleagues, with your peers, with your fellow monks. And again, you don't share it with the next person you are going to see, but you do it with certain people who can be a help to you, who are trustworthy, who are not going to make use of the information that you're going to say. But essentially, in this process, you have to open up and you have to share. You have to share it with someone. In fact, you hear a lot of stories that whenever someone tries to get into meditation, some people get into meditation and they end up lunatic, you know, they go crazy. I think if you really open up, follow the way of Buddha, we have a system, we have a infrastructure to share our thoughts. As a layman, you might not have that, but if you have a similar supporting structure where you can share your thoughts, what's really inside your mind, if you can put one by one on the table. When I was young, I had this doll. It was from Russia. I think it's called Matrushka, where it's made out of bamboo, where you have to open it, and then there's a smaller doll, and then you remove it, remove the top half, and there's even a smaller doll. So you keep on removing one by one and until you find a very small doll. Our mind is also like an onion. It has so many layers. When we peel one by one, of course, peeling is hurting. We cry, it makes us happy or it makes us sad. But when we start peeling one by one, we see that there's so many layers to our mind. And only when we start sharing these things come out. where suppressed feelings which have been bottled since our childhood, since our traumatic events, they come out one by one, and then you find release. You find release. It's like when you have the urge to urinate, for example, when you have to stay, when you can't do that, it's so uncomfortable, right? But when you can use the loo, you feel such a relief. Same with our emotional bottled up emotions. When you find a vent to it, when you share it, you would find such a release, such a solace. So escaping is probably not a good thing to do when you're grieving. And then again, people get into many other reactive behaviors like self-soothing. Now, it can be from a eating pattern. When you're sad, you try to eat a lot. Could be even drinking a lot, using toxicants, alcohol, whatever, smoking. You could go into that sort of things. And often some people can even try very compulsive behaviors, like very risk-taking behaviors. I'm sad, so in order to get my mind off this breakup, I'm driving the vehicle so fast, risking people on the road, risking myself, risking so many other lives. I'm doing risky things. People could even end up self-harming themselves. So these are not really good things for us, things for a grieving person to do. But if that happens, sometimes it happens. And again, let me tell you, although I said escaping is not a good thing, it totally depends on the individuality. For example, I'll share a story of mine, a personal story of mine. I was married, and then at one point I left my wife and the child, and that was one of the most traumatic events I have faced. I mean, I have faced a lot of other traumatic events, but this was the most emotionally difficult event that I faced, leaving the child. And when that happened, I sort of went into a cave. I was trying to solve that problem myself. But I know for a fact that compared to many people, I somewhat have a strong and a resilient mind. And the best way for me to move on from something is to be alone. But I have seen at the same time for many people, it's not the case. If you are left alone, you could be going into very self-destructive patterns, behaviors, habits, right? So when you are grieving and when you have to move on, for some people, it might work, but for some people, it could be very dangerous. And again, I am no judge. I can't tell what really fits you. It's up to you. But what's more important is to find support from people around you, like a monk. Like when we do the Vinaya Karma, we seek advice of our peer monks, of our teachers. We share what's in our mind, as well as we seek for advice, right? We don't do it every day, but we at least make it a point that we do it once a month on the Poya day, right? So similarly, as layman, I think even if your style is not to really open up, it's still important that you find one day per month to share your most deepest emotions, deepest sorrows with someone or some people. That's very important. Now, having said all these behaviors, let me draw our discussion to this thing. The only thing really we could do in any of these adverse situations is really observe ourselves, right? And that's the very cave that we do not want to enter. We are so afraid of looking into our mind, right? We are really afraid of doing that. In fact, all those behaviors I mentioned, fleeing from the incident, numbing yourself for the emotions, sometimes you numb yourself to the emotions, right? You are internally so agitated, but from the external, you numb yourself to the emotion. That's not a good healing. All these things we do is because we do not want to leave the comfort of our own thought chain. No matter how adverse it is, we do not want to leave the comfort of our thought chain. I'll tell you it in another way. I think it's a natural reaction of every human being that we do not want to leave our comfort zone. As a child, we want to be in our cot, the cozy cot, or the arms of our mother. When we grow up, we do not want to venture into other territories where we are not comfortable with. And what it could be physical, but most importantly, what we really can't leave is the comforts of our mind. And often that's the personal philosophy we have. We never do not want to leave our personal philosophy, right? What we have believed as correct, what we have believed as reality, what we have believed as truth, we do not want to leave that. And the only way to really leave it is to understand that we are in it, right? For example, I'm sure that you still remember Yala and Vilpattu natural reserves. If you are in Yala and if you want to come out of the jungle, you first need to understand where you are located at. And the first step is knowing where you are. And that's how you know whether you are supposed to go up north or go down south, right? If you are in Vilpattu, if you go up north, you'll be going towards Jaffna, not Colombo. If you are in Yala, if you go towards south, you'll be reaching the beach a dead end. So the paramount importance, the most important thing that one could do about finding our comfort zone or about understanding our comfort zone is trying to understand what we are really in. And I see that most of the time, individually, it's a very challenging task. You need help from an external person, an external event, external sermon. You need this external something to show where you are standing. And I see throughout the discourse of Buddha, that's what he has been trying to do. Whenever someone is residing on his own comfort zone, Buddha would challenge it. For example, Satchaka. There's this great philosopher called Satchaka. Buddha would challenge his stance and come up with an argument where his original argument is no more valid, right? So he's shaken, of course, and he has to leave the comfort zone of his own self, own mind, right? Why I'm saying this is that if you are really lamenting, many of these things would not really matter. But again, if you look at it like Dharmapala Brahmana, the only thing you can really do is try to accept the reality. And before accepting the reality, you would have to look into yourself. What is reality, right? And when we say what is reality, it's basically it's our experience. It's our conscious experience. What we hear, what we touch, what we see, what we perceive, right? And one could say that I see a flower in front of me. It's a beautiful daisy, right? Am I really seeing a daisy, or is it the mind telling me it's a daisy based on my previous memories, right? If you try to rationalize it, you would see that seeing is also the experience of seeing. I'm not talking about the actual seeing of light coming to your eye, etc., etc. I'm not talking about the physical phenomenon of that, but I'm talking about the experience of seeing. Experience of seeing is actually part of our mind. Seeing is part of our mind. Smelling, touching, sensing is part of our mind. Our own past, I'm not talking about the past which has really happened, but the experience of past is part of our mind. And if this is our existence, if this is the mansion that we are woken up tomorrow morning, all of a sudden, totally unfamiliar surrounding, if we are to master this, the only way to master this is trying to observe what is this made out of. Essentially, what is our mind is made out of. What is the building block of our mind. I'm again not talking about fancy technical terms, right? I'm not talking about Chitta Viti, Paticca Samuppada, Chitta Chaitasika Kanda. In Dhammasangani Prakarana, for example, if you go, it's such a in detailed document of our entire psyche, of how we think, how we perceive, how one thought would lead to the other. But we don't need to go into that detail, right? We can just start observing what we really feel now, what's crossing our mind now. So, for example, if you are in the process of lamenting, all you can do is that I am reacting to this loss in denial. I'm reacting to this loss in anger. I'm not asking you not to be angry. I'm just asking only to observe this anger, observe this denial, observe this depression. Right? I'm not asking you to not do any of those things, because whether I tell or whether I don't tell, that's your natural reaction. And no matter how much I tell, no matter how many advices you get, eventually it boils down to you. You are the one who's going to execute it, and you are going to think the way you are going to think, right? So no matter how much I say, you are going to change that. So I'm not even asking you to change that. The only thing I'm asking you to is to really observe what you are doing. What is your experience? What are you perceiving? Are you feeling anger? Are you feeling grief? Are you feeling frustration? Just observe it. Why? Again, this is the same dark cave. This is the dark mansion. This is the unfamiliar surrounding, unfamiliar setting that we fear to enter. But we also, from our bottom of our hearts, we wish to seek liberation of. It's not someone else's mansion, it's our own mansion. So in order to find liberation, first we need to understand it. And the only way to understand it is to be familiar with our experience, right? So I don't know if this helped or if it made even sense what I said. All what we can do in grieving, number one, is find solace in any way that is available. Again, when I say any way, not a self-destructive way or which doesn't disturb the peace of someone else, right? We need to think about how other people would be affected. So we are not going to harm anyone else. We are not going to harm ourselves. Within these parameters, you can try out anything that gives you peace, gives you temporary solace, and how you could flatten your rough emotions, very powerful emotions, how you can calm down yourself. And once you have calmed down, try to observe what are your emotions like during all these episodes. And towards the end, you will see that the person who has departed has departed. What has really changed is our mind. That's all what has changed. And now, since we have observed, we know the length and breadth of our mind. And I'll take one final example that when I was a layman, I used to do surfing. And anyone who's familiar with the beach, you would know that there's a place where the wave breaks, where you see the white foam and the wave breaks. Often that's the place where it's the most hardest to even stay. It's very rough, it's very agitated, it's very difficult to stay there. But if you have a inflatable thing or a surfboard, you go a little towards the sea and further away towards the sea from the place where the surf breaks. When you're right in the middle of the ocean, when this swells up and down, all that, you can just look up and you're so calm. That place is not agitated, but it's really in the middle of the sea, deep in the sea. But that place is not agitated, right? All you have to do is observe the swells coming up, going down, and you are in a transitive, peaceful, calm observation mode. You're not getting agitated like when you are at the surf break. So my wish is that if any one of you is affected by something, some adversity, starting from a broken vase to a broken heart to someone who has departed us, go towards the sea. Go to that dark cave where you fear to enter, right? Go to that sea where you fear to step into, because where the surf breaks, it's very agitated. There's a lot of emotions. There's a lot of everything. Once you go further, once you dwell further and further into your own emotions, you would find peace there, right? At the same time, find your support groups, find your peer whom you could share, and try out anything which is not harming yourself or harming others to get over this aggravated emotions. So with that initial discussion, I would like to open the stage for any questions you have about all these things. And again, I'm not talking about something which is totally out of our day-to-day experience, right? I'm talking purely pertaining to the experience. So if you ask me about a serious technical thing like something which is said in the Dhammasangani Prakarana or Vibhanga Prakarana about different Chitta Kanda, I might not be able to answer that. But one thing I'm very confident of answering is about my mind, because I know that. So I'm very familiar about answering that. And I believe that because I know my mind, it's easy for me to answer for questions about your mind, because I think eventually we more or less have the same mind pattern, maybe not the same content of mind, but the same mind pattern. So with that, I would like to open the forum for any questions you have about this sermon. Ananda Thero, do you have any comments, questions from the audience?
I think currently there is no question right up to now. No,
Right.
even though the messages are there, I think you can write up the sermon if there are no other questions.
Okay. So I will take it as that either you understood what I have been telling, or you totally did not understand what I was trying to tell you. But either way, if you have found peace in getting onto this Zoom discussion and trying to, you know, uh, find an answer to a burning question you had, I think that's all what matters. Whether you understood it or didn't understand it, it doesn't matter. At least you had a nice gathering of Zoom meeting. That's all what matters. And with that, I would move on to the transferring of merits for today. So this week the meeting was sponsored. This week's sponsors are Upali and Cecilia Jayakudi. We should be thankful to them, Upali and Cecilia Jayakudi. And with that, I would like to share the merits with the departed relatives, teachers, friends, our employees, employers, our enemies, people that we don't like, people that we love, our personal deities, devas, brahmas, and all beings in all realms, anyone, in any direction, any realm. So I would like if you can chant with me, Idam me Jnatidam Hotu, to transfer merits. So let's chant with me. Idam me Jnatidam Hotu Sukhita Hontu Jnatayo. Idam me Jnatidam Hotu Sukhita Hontu Jnatayo. Idam me Jnatidam Hotu Sukhita Hontu Jnatayo. Ittavata ja ammehi sampadang punya sampadang. Sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavata ja ammehi sampadang punya sampadang. Sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavataja ammehi sampadang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabda sampattu siddhya. May all uh, may the power of all the kusala that you have gained, all the merit you have gained through by obtaining the 5 precepts today, and by trying to awaken your wisdom through these sermons and the meditation that you do, may all this merit be a reason for our departed relatives, our departed friends, people who have departed this world because of this corona, and many people who would many people who has departed already, who would be departed in the future, and for all the people who are seeking to heal our minds, to see to heal our souls, to heal our experiences. May all this merit be transferred to everyone, to all the living beings in all realms, to find peace and fulfillment and liberate from your own mind, own samsara. And I wish may everyone attain supreme bliss of nirvana. Let me chant for you. Abhivadana silis nityang muddapachayino chattaro dhamma vaddanti ayuvanno sukham balang ayurarogya sampatti sabba sampatti mevacha ato nibbana sampatti iminate samicchatu.